Nederland gaat in de halve finale komen. Ik heb opeens zo'n gevoel dat we in de halve finale gaan komen met het balbezit voor Frank de Boer. Frank de Boer speelt de bal heel goed naar Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp neemt de bal aan. Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Dennis Bergkamp! Oh! Frank de Boer speelt de bal naar Dennis Bergkamp. Die neemt de bal feilloos aan en die schiet de bal erin. We spelen nog officieel 20 seconden.
Hello, and welcome back, friends. We are the Vassals of Kingsgrave, and we're back with another edition of Soccercast. World Cup fever continues to grip the globe, and today we'll be looking back at the first round of the knockout stages, also known as the round of 16. I am your host, Pops, or Noah in real life, and I am joined by my faithful hooligans, Bina.
Hey everyone, Bina 007 on the Discord.
And Bing.
Bing, who's operating on very little sleep right now.
While the group stages offered the neutral a lot of excitement and joy to the underdogs, this round of games felt like a return to business as usual. Usually there is a more prolonged break between the group stages and the knockouts, but given the condensed nature of this tournament and the season in general, there was no time for a breather. Maybe the strength in depth of squads showing where some teams have been unable to rotate due to a lack of quality. However, we'll get into it here and we'll talk about these matches in pairs based on the quarter-final showdown. So to begin, let's get some thoughts on the Netherlands versus USA, which unfortunately to our many US listeners did not end well for the Yanks. We had an early Pulisic chance. There was a one-on-one. He had, just one-on-one with the keeper. He tries to place it. Maybe a low and hard drive would have seen it hit the back of the net, and it's well documented the struggles you guys have had in front of goal. But Bing, you must have been encouraged after that start, that flash of hope.
Well, I mean, look, we can score goals. I've talked about this many times by this point. We don't have a real striker. Greg Berhalter, the coach, kept trying different strikers. All three of them that he called up. This game was Jesus Ferreira, who unfortunately played the worst out of all three of those because Jar Sargent was injured. It is what it is, right? Our best players who even played a pretty good game overall in this game, they made key mental mistakes at important junctures of the game that the Netherlands. The Netherlands just made them pay. That's the difference. Right, between the round of 16 is the graveyard of would-be teams, the underdogs, the whatever. It's the teams that are not good enough get buried in this round by teams that are better than them, and Netherlands are just better than the USA. That's just how it is.
Yeah, agreed. Certainly, that's the pattern we saw at this stage of the tournament. I think you're being harsh. Maybe that's the lack of coffee in your system this morning, but I think you're being harsh on the States.
We gave them a better fight than maybe some of those other teams gave the other superpowers in this round. We tried, and even when we went 2-0 down at halftime, we tried to come back and even got a goal, and then they immediately scored. Just
to throw some stats out there, you outshot them and outpassed them and had more possession. So I think, it's promising. There was a lot of energy going forward. Certainly that second half, it just came down to the finishing.
That's one way to look at it, right? That's good, and that's positive. And this is a really young team. This is one of the youngest teams in the tournament. Most of our starters, they'll definitely be back. We will definitely be back. We're hosting this thing in 2026. There's still golf there. And I think you're correct in mentioning lesser teams. We don't have as many good players. The drop off between, say, Yunus Musa, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie in the central midfield, and what comes next, it's a huge drop off. We can't rotate these guys, and because of that, mental fatigue set in. And especially our fullbacks, Dest and Robinson, they had good tournaments. They played really well, but both of them switched off at key junctures. And the Netherlands just keep punishing at the exact same spot. It's always the fullback crossing to another fullback that in the end got us. It's just all three goals that came from almost the exact same pattern. So
it must be said, I think it was the first Dutch goal where over 25 passes.
Yeah,
Um,
the pie.
yeah, which was just wonderful. They used to call it Dutch total football, didn't they?
This isn't Dutch total football. This is Dutch bunker football. But the problem is, whenever they want to come out of the bunker, they're very comfortable in their bunker, and whenever they want to come out of the bunker, they always score. So
Yeah. A quick word on the Dutch. Bina, do you think they've got another gear to go to? Are they still sort of just cruising through Met, no offense to the US or any of the other teams they face in the group stages, but do you think there's another level they can reach?
I think there is another level they can reach, and I think they've got the manager to get them there. I think the more interesting discussion actually will come with England, who will for sure have to find another gear to beat France. And one wonders if Southgate has the tactical courage, the kind of leadership skills to get them there. I've really been impressed by the Dutch this tournament. I think they are the team that were maybe even by us, because we talked about them defensively, but maybe a little bit underestimated. Some phenomenal players coming through, and I really fancy them.
Van Gaal is he look he's I think Manchester United fans like to dominate discussions, and they don't like Louis Van Gaal. He didn't do that great for them, but then again, how many managers since Sir Alex Ferguson have actually done great with them? Louis Van Gaal in this tournament is one of the best managers, and there's just no disputing that. His record stands for itself. He doesn't give a fuck. He's ancient. And that's dangerous for other teams because a lot of other managers, if you look at Berhalter, the U.S. manager, well, you see the difference. You see the difference in tactical acumen. One just couldn't quite, gets indecisive when it comes to changing the shape of the team, doesn't really know what to do when there's no striker that's really informed and put away goals. So he couldn't really figure out, okay, I'm kind of play this striker, or should I play that striker? Van Gaal doesn't care. You just play the players that he feels are the best at that moment, and somehow he's always right. The goalie that the Netherlands is playing right now, that guy never played for the Netherlands a single game before this tournament. That guy never played for a team that's worth anything in international soccer in his entire life. In his 30s, and Van Gaal just picks him, and he's doing great. So.
Yeah, he's a wily old fox, isn't he? So looking ahead, obviously we know they meet Argentina in the quarterfinals. So let's discuss Argentina Australia, which again another one of these maybe a really solid first 11 Australia, but not quite much more in depth. Maybe looking leggy. I mean there's a goal, close control in a tight space, squeezing a shot in with his left foot. No, it's not Bukayo Saka. It's that other bloke who's good at football, Lionel Messi. Has he come to life? What are we thinking about the Argentinian performance? It was a high press that got them their second goal, and Australia made it a little nervy getting one back, but didn't ever feel in doubt really that game.
I don't even know if it was a good starting 11 in the first place. It was a team that played to a plan. And they defended well. And like I said before in the group stages, they just conjure goals out of black magic. I mean, and that goal they scored against Argentina is just pure out of nothing. It just what is that? But they
voodoo.
but they made Argentina panic at the end. So good on them. This is probably the best football those individual players will ever play in their entire careers.
Yeah, so does that speak to a weakness in Argentina, or again is it this, there's another level when they face tougher opposition, which they will in the quarterfinals? Is that gonna spur them on to raise their game?
I think that they play differently. They play differently against bigger teams. The problem with Netherlands is they're still favored against the Netherlands, so it'll be interesting to see what their approach is. On one hand, I think those players will play better. The deeper the tournament goes. On the other hand, those last 10 minutes or so, in which they play really nervy, that might be a sign of, again, in some of those players that aren't quite experienced, let's say a Lionel Messi. Tournament, but also it might also speak to the fact that their coaches are pretty young and kind of green at this level as well. So they have won a Copa America, however, with this team. And so
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned our predictions because I think I got every single one wrong. And you guys did quite the opposite and got everything right. Oh no, I got one right. Okay, we'll save that one for the end, but we will not mention any of the others. So there have been some classics, Netherlands versus Argentina down the years. Any of our listeners don't know who Dennis Bergkamp is, I highly advise you to go and watch his 1998 last-minute winner against Argentina for Dutch. So he was scoring for the Netherlands. But they've actually met surprisingly frequently in the last couple of World Cups. They met in 2006 in the group stages, and 2014, I think, again in the quarterfinals, where Argentina won on penalties.
That was one of the worst games I've ever watched.
So what are you guys? What do you think's going to happen? How do you think this one's going to turn out?
I just feel that Argentina has to win, right? But I think it will be close. But Messi, they seem to be getting better and better. Messi seems to be coming to life. I think you just got to back the on-paper quality here.
I mean, I'll go with Argentina, but I'm not behind Argentina. The Dutch have significant advantage in certain positions. Argentina it's much better going forward. The Netherlands is not going to score as easy goals they scored against US as against Argentina. It's just not going to happen. And you figure out different ways to.
Okay.
It's
No
not
worries.
a mic issue. It's my headphones exactly where it is. So no, sorry. But yeah, no. What I was saying is Netherlands is not going to score as easy goals as they were scoring against us in round of 16. It's just not going to happen against Argentina. They have to figure out other ways to unlock Argentina's defense. But Argentina's defense did look a little bit shaky throughout this entire tournament. And Argentina haven't been exactly entirely prolific, but I will credit their coach, their coaching team, Scaloni, and a bunch of former Argentinian internationals. They've made the changes when it's necessary. They've dropped Lautaro Martinez when he's just can't figure out how offside trap works, and put in Julian Alvarez, and Julian Alvarez has been great. So
yeah, agreed. He is exceptional, which frustrates and terrifies me from a Premier League perspective. But yeah, I think if he fires for Argentina, it can sort of be. I mean, we'll get to it later, the Portugal game, but it can be a similar kind of bolt from the blue. Someone who maybe we weren't banking on being such a big impact. I mean, if we're doing predictions, I am going to actually back the Netherlands on this one.
it's fair choice.
And it sounds like you two are going for Argentina, right?
Sure.
Yeah, but I think it will be close. I think it will be close. And it breaks my heart because I really enjoyed watching the Netherlands. But yeah, Argentina.
Okay.
I mean, it has to be, right?
All right.
I had them in the final. That was my all prediction for the final. So.
Well, I mean, it does set up, if Argentina go through and all being good, we'll get to it. But Brazil, an Argentina-Brazil semi-final just sounds so incredibly spicy. I don't think
it just
anyone...
sounds like the final, right? I mean, it just sounds like the wrong time for them to meet.
No.
Well, it can't be the final because England aren't there, so, But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So on to the next pairing of games. We had the wonderful, the mighty Japan playing Croatia, who unfortunately went out on penalties. And we also had Brazil beating South Korea. So starting with Japan, I think this is another case of kind of a team running out of steam. That's similar. I think they took the lead in this game briefly and had more than 20% possession, which was shocking. But Croatia, I think that every World Cup, or at least in the last 20 years, they've been such an unappreciated force.
They're phenomenal, right? And they've got Luka Modric, who's one of the most experienced big tournament players out there. I did wonder, I mean, as when something like this goes to penalties, is it just match experience that wins? God bless Japan. I was so excited to see them. I was really rooting for the Asian teams to go through, but you've got to back teams that have real match experience in big tournament play. And with Croatia, this is going to make them suffer in 4 years' time, right? Because they've got some retiring players. But you just felt that that experience, that calm head was going to keep them going, even if on paper they're quite even teams. So it wasn't surprising to me that Croatia went through at all.
certain Luka Modric is going to retire in
No.
4 years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, how old is Modric? He's
37.
37. Wow. I mean, that man is the finest cheese in the world because he just gets better with age.
Or like I said, he's a vampire.
Or that. I mean, he was exceptional. He's exceptional. You know,
Though
pulling the
interestingly,
strings there.
Although interestingly, they subbed him out in this game at around like 60, 70th minute. And
They did. I'm just trying to see who that was for because I feel like didn't they have? I mean, were they planning for penalties already?
no, I don't. No, they weren't. In fact, they were in ascendance after about like after Perisic scored. If anything, they were the ones who were going to score after like 60 minutes or so. Although Japan did have one final chance that was very close.
Yeah, Modric came off in the 99th minute. So I think it was just 37-year-old Luka Modric running out of steam.
The Croatia. This is a team that it's the same team. They've switched out some places in which they had to. Mandzukic is retired, so they have to make the switch up top. Rakitic also retired from international football. They have to. Well, they didn't really have to do too much in the middle midfield. They just swapped him for Kovacic. It's still that central midfield that's going to get them anywhere. If they're going anywhere further in this tournament, it's that central midfield. They just have to win every single battle they face. They won the midfield battle in this game. Eventually, it took them a while before they got there. And Japan can't score penalties. They suck at it. They suck at it in every single tournament I've watched them play. They just suck at penalties. I don't know why. It's not the same players. They just suck at it.
Yeah, I mean, my God, the most lackluster penalties. Yeah,
it's not a technique.
Really,
thing.
it's not a technique thing.
It's almost 100% mental. They just couldn't. It's one thing. It's one or two players who keep doing it. All of them keep doing the same thing.
I mean, do they even practice them? I mean, it feels like something. Certainly in a World Cup. I mean, you know, I mentioned earlier. There's no, you know. I think usually there's a week break between the group stages and the knockouts.
No, it's usually just like 1 or 2 days.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a bit of a longer break than that because it felt like a super fast turnaround. Like some teams.
I mean, this is still fast.
Yeah.
But no, I think. Well, I mean, why does England suck at penalties in international tournaments? It happens.
Yeah. It happens. It does. But yeah, Croatia ruthless. And they march on. Tenacious Japan get an early break.
I'll say one thing. Their center defender, the center defender, Yusuf Guardiola is going to. That's a star. That's going to be.
He looks very good. RB like. I mean, I'm looking at it now. A centre back who can play left back. Sign him up, Arteta.
Yeah. If Arsenal have let's say 100 million euros to spend.
Yeah. I mean, after this World Cup, anyone who's under the age of 25 who's performed is going to be in mad money. All right. Well, let's move on to Brazil versus South Korea. I didn't actually get to see this one, so I mean, it ended 4-1. Looked pretty routine.
It was just a ruffle stomp. It was bad play. And it just made me feel like sometimes, you know, you're so excited when a team like Korea goes through against the odds, and then it just sets you up for actually a really dull R16 match because they were so outmatched. You know, Brazil wrapped it up by halftime, sub people off, just, you know, commiseration goal, but it was just brutal. And it wasn't actually that fun to watch because it was just so horrid and uneven.
I like the football that Brazil playing. I also like the celebrations. That was funny.
Yeah, I mean, bringing on 65-year-old Dani Alves for the Bants.
No, it's worse than that. They brought on their third keeper. They subbed in their third keeper. That's when you know.
Yeah, I mean, there was like a disrespect to it. At one point, I was just like, "This is mean. Actually, this is disrespectful to South Korea." I get you're preserving players for a very quick turnaround quarterfinal, but this just feels flipping like bullying. I didn't like it.
No, look, there's no sentiment, especially by the time we get down to 16. You're good enough or you're not. South Korea wasn't good enough. Well, Brazil get to do the stuff that they want to do. From their perspective, they get the last player who hasn't played a game. They get him into a game. That they don't care. They don't care about South Korea. They're already thinking about the next game. That's fair play to them. They get to do this.
I mean, it's fair play, but to quote the Princess Bride, it's not sportsmanlike. It doesn't
Isn't
show respect to it doesn't show respect to the opponent. In fairness, the opponent wasn't really deserving of respect, but I don't know. I was just so excited when Korea got through, and maybe that's my own fault for sentimentalizing a brutal sporting competition, but it was just very sad to see.
at this stage, you're either good enough or you're not. To give South Korea credit, because we didn't talk about this because we recorded on a day in which they played their last group stages games. South Korea, they shouldn't even have been here, but they made this incredible comeback. The Son assist after drawing 4 Portuguese defenders around him and then shredding a pass to Hwang Ki-chan for the smash and grab that eliminated Uruguay. That was an amazing moment.
Yeah, no, just thank you to South Koreans, because if there's anyone in world football we want to see crying, it is Luis Suarez. So thank you for that. I think Luis Suarez started crying at around the 70th or 80th minute when he knew it wasn't going to happen.
Almost immediately at the moment he went South Korea.
Yeah, he didn't even have hope. He just knew Uruguay were not going to score another goal or whatever they needed to do. It was just never going to happen.
It was so memeable. It was so beautiful. Ronaldo and Suarez, some of the least liked men in world football, and Schadenfreude to the win.
Absolutely. So that sets up an interesting tie, very World Cup tie with Croatia and Brazil. The stalwarts versus the fancy, almost arrogant Brazil.
I mean, at least Brazil will have competition on this one, but I don't see a way that Brazil do not go through. And that's sad to me because I've got a lot of respect for this Croatian team and people like Modric, but it'll be closer. But I still don't see how Brazil don't win something like 2-1. I really don't.
Casemiro has been magnificent in this tournament. It can't be understated how good that guy is in the middle.
Yeah.
Because you take out Casemiro, and this is also if you take out Neymar, turns out this is also a very different team. Neymar was out for 2 games during the group stages, and Brazil looked much more lackluster going forward. And again, the coach, is playing Neymar as a playmaker, and he's doing very well in that role. Now, keep going forward. The opposition is just going to get tougher and tougher. I think Brazil wins, but if you tell me that if Croatia wins, is that completely shocking to me? No.
Yeah, and neither should it be like even on our prior match, right? So, but that's the point of quarterfinals. These matches should get closer and closer and more competitive as you go through. Because even the flukily going through teams like the Koreas and Japans, no offense, get knocked out. So, in a sense, by the time you get to a quarterfinal, no result should be completely shocking.
No, completely agree. Everyone has earned the right to be there by that point.
Brazil need to keep finishing their chances like they did against. They can't be as wasteful as they were in the group stages. And maybe the South Korean game has already helped them in that regard, and they're just going to keep better and better, getting better and better and better. But yeah, this is where they really start to show their quality, and again and again and again. And maybe Richarlison can keep dancing that stupid pigeon dance that he's doing. He is on a hot streak right now. Richarlison is one of the most streakiest players in football. He is on a hot streak. That needs to keep going because Brazil doesn't actually have that much better options.
Well, I mean, it's easy to look good when you're playing alongside good players. Is what I'll say about Richarlison.
He's contributing because, and it is him now because Gabriel Jesus is injured.
Yes, it would be remiss of us not to mention our lovely number 9, Gabriel Jesus, is out for 3 months and will miss the remainder of the tournament.
Yeah.
So I think we're all Brazil for the win in this one. I don't see it going any other way. Hopefully one of our Croatian friends can just leave one in on Richarlison and make sure it's the end of his World Cup too.
Look, Richarlison is a very good person off the field.
He stood up to Bolsonaro, right? Which is no mean feat. I think it's ungenerous. I know we're Gooners and we hate the Spuds. I think it's ungenerous to say he only looks good because he's with good players. I think he is legitimately a very, very exceptional player.
He's streaky. He's hot. When he's hot, he's hot. He's extremely hot right now.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. We shall see indeed. And then obviously it sets up a spicy semi-final, potentially Brazil versus Argentina. But we will not get ahead of ourselves. And unlike Brazil, we will show respect to Croatia. So now we get into it, the third pairing of games. I feel like this is going to dominate a lot of discussion as it contains England. But we had France versus Poland, where France walked it. I think you might have even called the score Bing. I think you said 3 or 4-1 in the last one.
Games to compete in the tournament.
Yeah, and then England, Senegal, who I believe everyone was kind of thinking we were, going to scrape through on penalties or a 1-0 or a 2-1, but it was super straightforward. So I mean, let's get France out the way before we dive into the English game. We had Olivier Giroud extending his he is now the highest scoring player for France. And then the next highest scoring, the player who will absolutely overtake him in his lifetime, Kylian Mbappe, getting 2. Felt like a very routine win for France. What did you think, Bing?
Poland sucks. Mexico also sucks, and Saudi Arabia. Matty Cash, bless his incredibly English heart. He was not going to win any battle against Kylian Mbappe. That was just not going to happen. And the rest of the Polish team, they labored barely into the round of 16. There was no universe in which they can compete with France. France can put out a B or C team and beat Poland easily.
Yeah, they dribbled over the finish line for that group stage. Were almost kind of shocked to be there, I think. Lewandowski can. I mean, I doubt he's ever gonna.
He scored 2 goals in this tournament. This Polish team, previous tournaments, they just suck. They just underperform, and they get out and they get in.
I mean, arguably Lewandowski scored more than I thought he would. I mean, that's arguably outperformance. I mean, he's useless.
The team around him is useless. There's only so much a striker in his pro. He's a guy you put in a really, really good team, and he's going to finish a bunch of chances. He's going to score an enormous amount of goals every season. That's who he is entire career. He's not going to be a guy who's going to. He's not Messi. He's not Ronaldo. He's not going to carry a team of a bunch of losers over.
Yeah, I mean, he's not Ronaldo because he starts for his team.
Well, we'll get to Ronaldo. Look, Lewandowski, he's also like, 34, 35 now?
34. I mean, He might scrape it into the Euros just because, I mean, who is the backup? Is it? I'm just trying to look down the list of subs.
Karol Swiderski, who plays for Charlotte FC in the MLS.
Yeah. Charlotte FC, 25 years old.
Which speaks to the quality of the MLS that we have, and that our players are now getting caught up by Poland. And Argentina has an MLS player, by the way.
He does look a bit like the aliens from Mars Attacks, I must admit.
Yeah, I really don't have to talk too much about Lewandowski. He scored 2 goals that were handed to him in a good platter. Poland sucks otherwise.
Yeah.
This France team, this is 80% of their power. If this was a 100% full scale French team, that is presumptive favorite, even over Brazil and Argentina and all of those guys. This is like an 80% French team. They don't have Benzema. They don't have N'Golo Kante. They don't have Pogba. So the starters that they have to play well because their substitutes are not good enough by this stage. You don't want to see Matteo Guendouzi suit up against England.
Yeah, we know that very well. So given that they are basically, their first rung is phenomenal, but it's the first rung, how do you think they're doing on conditioning and tiredness? Because they are young, so maybe it doesn't matter that they're not like, the Croatians, like the Modric's that are getting knackered by this point and running out of conditioning.
Well, I mean, they threw a game away in the group stages completely. So I don't think they should be as tired as Croatia. Or they should be fine conditioning. I'm more worried about with France is that every single game they've played so far, ignoring the game they threw away, every single game they took seriously so far, they still have that 5 to 10 minutes in which they just switch off and teams just suddenly find a bunch of time.
Yeah, I think they've conceded in every game.
They have. The Poland goal was whatever, but but even earlier in that game, there were times in which Poland actually created real chances against them, and in the Poland game, Hugo Lloris had to pull up some pretty key saves where they could have gone down against Poland. They shouldn't have, but they could have. So that's what's actually worrying about France is that their players, it's not physical. It's not a physical problem. These guys are fit. This is fit as hell. They should be good to go. Dembele questionable, but he's been good so far. But it's that mental. It's that defensively, especially Upamecano, who starts next to Varane, he just mentally switches off sometimes.
They've got Koundé at right back, who doesn't feel like it's his most natural position.
It's absolutely not, but it's
Yeah.
he loves to play center backs at fullback. That's his favorite thing in the world. That's another problem. But on the other hand, on left back, Theo Hernandez is having one of his turns.
In terms of the defense and switching off, do you think there's a bit of complacency that whatever we concede, Mbappe will score one more? Is that what's going on? Are they not as motivated? Is the manager not getting through to them that what they're doing is crucial?
I think it's just the players themselves, the profile of the players that they have. Some of them are just like that. It could be Deschamps his messages not getting through anymore, but because this is a thing that happened to them in the Euros as well, specifically in that game against Switzerland in the round of 16 in the Euros, which they lost in that game. So it's bizarre, but partly it's also this is not their first team. Not completely their first team. I don't know if it's
they're missing a core, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking down that lineup, and even on the bench, and I'm struggling to pick out someone who, you're sort of your Tony Adams, grab the team by the scruff of the neck to pull them through and sort of shake some sense into them. I don't see. I mean, firsthand, I know that's not Olivier Giroud's in his wheelhouse. I don't see it from any of the forwards except Mbappe just being a goal machine. Varane, he seems more of the, he's very experienced and a high quality player, but maybe not as vocal. I mean, are they missing Pogba for that? Because Pogba is much more of a
personality, I guess.
Yeah, an on-pitch, non-field leader. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Adrien Rabiot has been playing really well in that role. They have the players who will get there in 4 years, because I think Aurelien Tchouameni, who's already very good and starting for Real Madrid now, he'll get there.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
And Camavinga will get there eventually. Coming that's even younger. But right now, that's not who they are yet. Griezmann is actually the leader.
Yeah.
Griezmann and Giroud. And Giroud, I think he's not the stereotype. I mean, I know you Arsenal fans have a certain perception of Olivier Giroud. He's now in his ancient stage of how is this guy still around? How is this guy still scoring the same amount of goals as he was during his prime? So I think he's moved on to a different stage, which arguably actually makes.
He was always a good goal scorer. I think he's just, I mean, even for Arsenal, he'd miss a lot of chances, and I don't doubt that he probably has been better for Chelsea and AC Milan. And maybe we just when he was at Arsenal, we were expecting him to be the goal machine, and we didn't actually buy any support for him. It wasn't until Alexis Sanchez came that there was someone to maybe alleviate that burden. I actually can't remember if they crossed over much for a year. But he's good at what he does. He can hold up the play. He actually, for such a big man, does run a decent amount and has a bit of pace on him. But I meant more from the on-pitch presence. When he was playing for us, and I don't think this has gone away from what I see in his game, he could be a bit lightweight or a bit of a passenger. He didn't ever strike me as the kind of player to, slap some sense into someone, or, to chase back and make a tackle that sort of galvanizes the team. But again, he could do, he's scoring the goals, certainly. And that is ultimately what's most important. But I think based on time, we should absolutely move on to England and dig into the feast that was England versus Senegal, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say about England-France coming up. It was pretty all right. The first half an hour was quite cagey and boring. And then we had a lovely move where Bellingham just burst into life. I mean, I know Saka has been, I think he's got 3 goals for England in 4 appearances now. Or actually, did he even feature in the third?
He didn't play in the second.
Yeah, 3 and 3. Yeah, so he didn't feature in that game. But I think Bellingham has to be our standout player of the tournament so far for England, and what he's brought in that role is fantastic. And I think it was actually, we slate old Southgate when he doesn't, calling him. I think you called him tactically rigid earlier, Bina, or something along those lines. And I think putting Henderson in alongside him, so he's got that platform of Rice and Henderson to push on and be a bit more of that creative number 10, work to treat in this game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I did call him tactically rigid and also lacking courage, but he's made some moves. Let's see if he can ramp it up. What I think is interesting about England is if you compare them against France, which inevitably we shall do, I don't think they have a stronger starting lineup, although we should talk about what we think the best starting lineup is, because he's got a lot of options. But we've definitely got more on the bench. So we're more like if you did a normal distribution, we've got thicker tails, basically. But the peak in the middle is less high. I'm sorry, that was so nerdy. Which makes it really fascinating on, in terms of like how I think the fact that we've got more substitutions than normal in this World Cup really helps us. We're very young, we're very fit. Probably don't have a player of the caliber of an Mbappe, but I think surrounding that, if we can deploy what we have well, I think it'll be closer than what most people think. I think being underdogs helps us going into this match, but I think I wanted to sound like I'm sounding a bit Ted Lasso, but it's going to come down to belief. Does this group of England players feel intimidated by France like everybody else? Or do we actually secretly think we can do it?
I think the belief, I would actually say contrary to that, the belief is there. I think it would have been easy with the Euros not so long ago for heads to go down. And I think the goals that we've been scoring, the way we've been playing, has whatever worries and doubts there were have been shaken off by this point. I think even work in our favour that we don't have a Mbappe who is, running away with the goal tally. They are spread around pretty evenly in this team. We've got Saka, Rashford, Kane finally got a goal. Foden got one in the last game. That Bellingham's got one. It looks promising from that perspective in terms of we can chop and change. We can go to the bench and we can bring in. In this game we brought Mason Mount, Marcus Rashford, Grealish. Top attacking quality off the bench and change things up. Before we dive into more England, is there anything anyone wants to say on Senegal?
They came into that game very, very shorthanded. They haven't had Bukayo Saka this entire tournament, right?
So yeah, no Mane, obviously. The step down from Mane to Ismail Assar is stark.
Yeah, and also they were also out Idrissa Gueye for this game as well. Is their heartbeat in the center of the midfield. So
one may say that step down is going to be like the step down from Gabby Jesus to Nketiah come January or December 26th.
I've got more faith in Eddie, but we can save that for another pod. So yeah, not too much on Senegal. It was pretty routine in the end. I absolutely adored the shit out of Bukayo Saka's finish. Obviously, Foden did some amazing work down the wing, but the little just outside of the right foot flick over the keeper, it was just so casual and so it's what he's all about, understated brilliance. And if we're getting in,
we do need to talk about his new girlfriend because she just looks like a right one. She slid into his DM. She's Instagramming up a storm. I don't think that's the right girl for our kid. I really don't. I think Mama Saka needs to intervene quick.
Ignoring the stuff that the son likes to get into.
just reading now.
Looking forward to England, friends.
I think for both teams, it's the first big test. It's the first. I think either team, you could easily see them in the final if they can beat the other. So, if France absolutely dominate England and go through, I wouldn't be, based on who else is in this this side of the tree, the tournament tree, I think you'd be confident of going to the final.
Not so sure anymore after that last game. Things have gotten a little bit interesting on that other side. So what I said about about England is Gareth Southgate going to be Gareth Southgate and go back to his comfort zone. In a way, he was almost forced to play Phil Foden in this game because, unfortunately, Sterling had a terrible thing happen to him back at home, and he had to leave the squad. I don't know if Sterling has made his way back to Qatar at this point. I don't know if he's going to play.
He had his house in London burgled, I think, and his family were quite shaken up. So he travelled home for that, and I think he's looking to the FA to get permission to come back.
one thing I'm also worried about in terms of Southgate is he going to go back to being Southgate and play straight in the back? Because he has done that, right?
I think he'd be tempted to. I think he'd be tempted to because you're looking at that very potent French lineup attacking wise anyway. And I mean, as much as he loves Harry Maguire, he's not an idiot, Southgate. And there must be some little voice in the back of his head saying, Mbappe versus Maguire. Not sure about that.
So he's going to be tempted to overload the right side of the defense with Walker and Trippier.
Exactly.
Because that's his favorite thing to do. He did that in the Euro finals.
It's not a bad shout, and then it could at least open. I mean, maybe I'm going to get laughed off the podcast for this, but if he does play three at the back, then maybe it opens the door to play Trent at right back and put
he'll never
Trippier
play
at
Trent.
left.
He'll never play Trent at right back. You know he's never going to play Trent. Not in this game. You know deep down, you know he's never going to play Trent. He does not trust Trent, especially in a game like this. He's not going to play Trent against us, the United States of America. He's not going to play Trent against France.
And I think on that one, rightly so, actually.
Probably.
I'm not a huge fan. Who do you think is starting lineup? But who do you think starts then? Does Bellingham, does he go for Hendo? Does he go for Bellingham? I mean, what does he do? Because it's an interesting question. He's got a lot of options.
He might drop Bellingham.
No, he cannot. He cannot.
Not
Bellingham.
after the matches. Just I think that'd be very, very tricky to do that.
I to be honest with you, I think if he goes three at the back, maybe he drops Henderson. I think the only players.
Henderson was great in that game. No,
he was, no doubts. But I mean, Bukayo Saka was brilliant against Iran and gets dropped for the USA. So
No. Saka just played against us. He was rested against whoever he played, Wales.
Sorry, Wales. Yeah. You can see him going out with that same lineup. It performed well. I like Rashford. I accept Grealish is a good player despite having the most slappable face. He's right up there with Richarlison in terms of slappability. I don't want to see Mason Mount start. I don't want to see Rashford start, and I really don't want to see Grealish start. I think we had our best front three.
Mason Mount is his favorite player.
I don't know how that's justified. He has been Chelsea's best player in a very subpar Chelsea team.
Okay, so it'll be great if Southgate can go against his instinct and stick with what works so far. But previous tournaments have told me about Southgate. What's going to happen in this game is that he's going to try to nick an early goal, and he's going to pack in. And what inevitably happens is that the other team is going to score. He's going to pick one up, and then maybe you last until extra time, maybe even 2 penalties. England has now won those games.
I tell you what, and I don't know why I'm saying this. I quite fancy us on penalties. Is Gareth Southgate potentially a bit like a Van Gaal? Like, everyone's saying this is his last major tournament. So he's got nothing to lose either. I mean, mix it up. Go for broke. Bazball the fuck out of this. That's a cricket reference.
If only he could.
Are they saying it's going to be his last tournament?
Yeah, I don't know if it is.
Are they not? I feel like I've heard that on every podcast I've listened to, but then again, they're all
every podcast wants him fired. But I don't think he.
Yeah, I mean,
actually going to go.
I don't think he'll go. He's so young. I think it's just the natural. It's probably more of an English thing. We're just used to. I mean, the Premier League is just some teams are just a revolving door of managers. But the England setup has become like that, as if, to be quite frankly, I don't see any top 6 Premier League side offering Gareth Southgate a job. So no one's knocking at that door.
I don't see any Championship teams offering Gareth Southgate a job.
Well, Middlesbrough might have him back, but but seriously, I don't think there's pressure, and I think what we've perceive as fans to be the right thing to do. I think the FA are going to look at this a bit less emotionally, and they're going to see a final and a semi-final for the first time in God knows how long, and probably stick with him. He knows the English setup well. He's well ingrained in the FA. I think that's going to probably speak more than he's already made it to the quarterfinals. I think even if we went out against France, it would still be seen.
That was my question. What do you think for the FA constitutes success of this tournament? Is quarterfinal already enough, or would they have wanted to see us in a semi?
I think it's a minimum. I think it depends who we're up against, but it's a minimum for sure. We've probably been dealt the toughest quarterfinal. If we're looking at it really, I think this is definitely the toughest game for both teams as well, which is why I say the winner of this will likely go on to the final. We'll get on to Portugal shortly, but yeah, all right, then go on. So, Bina, what would you do to that starting 11? What's your...
I would play exactly the same starting 11 as last time as Senegal. Go with momentum, but really aggressively use the subs as well. Like use the full capability of what we have in options.
Yeah.
But we should.
Okay.
Bing, any changes from that, or should we go to Portugal?
No, I agree with you. I just don't know if that's what Southgate's going to do. But yeah, no, we can move on.
Yeah, I think you're right. There is I feel like you did just lay down the Southgate formula, nick a goal, hold on to it. I mean, it's the story of the Euro final, isn't it? So we have done England to death, and hopefully France do not do the same. But now we get to talk about something very fun indeed, which is Morocco versus Spain. The other game was Portugal versus Switzerland, which let's do Morocco first. Let's start. Let's have our pudding first. It was I didn't actually see a lot of the main game. I sort of flicked on in the last half of the second half. It seemed like Morocco were doing all right. A bit of a cagey Spain.
Spain passed themselves into oblivion, as they tend to like to do.
Yeah, looking at it now, over 1,000 passes from the Spanish and 77% possession. Jesus.
They passed themselves into oblivion, and anywhere but into the net.
Bored themselves.
Did they not practice penalties either? I mean, what? I mean,
according to Luis Enrique, they practiced penalties 1,000 times.
With a goalkeeper? I mean, like...
Maybe they should practice less penalties. Spain should never have even needed to go to penalties. It just happens with Spain. And I think, and actually to give Luis Enrique credit, even though he's gone now, he has made this team more more direct, a little bit more direct compared to Russia in 2018. Luis Enrique's Spanish teams have at least tried to score goals. But they just in certain games you just stop being able to score goals. It's the same formula. They pass it around all the time, and it's like, oh, great, a lot of possession. What are you going to do with that possession? Nothing. Morocco had the more straightforward chances in that game, even though they had 23% possession. It's at this point that's how.
Well, it's a game of concentration, isn't it? When you have that much of the ball for both sides, actually. They often it's the old Pep Guardiola formula where you effectively bore the other team into submission. He's done it every club he's been at and does it so successfully for Manchester City. But it's actually it's tough mentally on the team that has the ball as well. And maybe it I don't know what it is. They almost they become too focused on keeping the ball rather than actually being useful with it. I'm trying to find a heat map for the Spanish possession because it's a lot of central midfield and were they just doing the horseshoe of death around the penalty area? Is what it sounds like to me. Yeah, and the problem, and I think there's a practical problem is that they don't have a good striker. Ferran Torres is not a real striker. He likes to Barcelona and Spain like to pretend he's a striker. He's not. And the other options, well, Alvaro Morata is Alvaro Morata. Nobody really trusts him, even though he actually played really well. He scored a lot of goals in the group stages. Man just never really trusts that guy to keep it up. And Ansu Fati is not, first of all, also not a striker, but just came out of incredible injuries. Nico Williams is way too young and way too raw at this stage. The other guys that he trusts are actually not really that good. They're just the guys he trusts. Asensio, Sarabia, these sort of guys. They don't score goals. They don't score a lot of goals even in their club football. And so it's hard for you to expect them to be able to convert on the international stage. I think Spain does have that profile of players in their player pool, but they just don't like them. So, well, okay. But give credit to Morocco. I wouldn't. Again, this is not a total bunker job. Any team that plays Spain is going to lose possession to them. That's just going to happen. But Morocco had enough offensive punch to them that they could have just won the game in regular time. Again, the doubt I had about the Morocco team going into this tournament, they fired their coach like a few months before the tournament starts and brought in a new guy. Turns out this new guy is great. What can I say? Well, either Regragui hasn't
apparently is the perfect guy for the job. He got Hakim Ziyech to play his best football ever for Morocco. Because if you read their fans and their comments about Ziyech before the tournament, it's always about Ziyech doesn't care. He plays for Morocco like he doesn't give a. But he does. In here, he's playing really well. And some of these other guys are literally laying their body down. And Buffal is. I've never seen Sofiane Buffal play this well. The guy's been in the Premier League for many years. Never seen this guy play that well. He got that team to buy in. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean they were the last of the underdogs that keep marching on, and absolutely loved it. And I will not fail to mention this is the only prediction I got right.
Good for you.
Of all of them. Whereas I think Bing, you got 5 out of 6 correct.
I haven't made any predictions.
But yeah, I've just found Spain's pass map, and it really is just sort of that middle third of the pitch. Very, very unadventurous football. Alvaro Morata scored 3 goals in this tournament, but didn't start. I think they have to lean into someone, as you say. They don't have anyone who can score except him. So de facto should really be starting. But yeah, 1,000 passes, 1 shot on target, and then. So who do we think took the worst penalties at this tournament?
It was absolutely Spain. Even Japan wasn't that bad. It's the same 3 shots, essentially, the 3 penalties, right? Which, look, Bono is a good, very, very good keeper. And Bono knows all of those players because he's playing in Spain his entire career for Sevilla. So he knows every single one of those players and he knows where they're going to go. But no, those were shocking. Those are easy saves.
Well, they hit the post on one, I think, and then the other 2 were just straight into the keeper's hands. I think he almost looked a bit embarrassed when they won it, the keeper, because he was just sort of like, throw me up in the air, but I really didn't have a lot to do. We mentioned Luis Suarez and his tears. It would be remiss of me not to mention perhaps the biggest bastard left in the tournament at the knockout stages was Sergio Busquets, who missed his penalty after doing a hilarious little. He gave the keeper a little wink as he puts the ball down, and then just completely fucks the penalty up. So thank you, Sergio Busquets, and may you never win anything ever again. I think we're running out of time in the final few minutes, so let's nail Portugal versus Switzerland. So I think we were all predicting a bit of a tough one for the Portuguese. The stalwart Swiss, usually so solid, and my God, it just completely fell apart for them.
See what happens when you drop Ronaldo.
Yeah, you drop Ronaldo for some kid, Gonzalo Ramos, who no one has ever heard of. Well, I'm sure you have, Bing. It's almost like if Callum Wilson won the Golden Boot for England. It's someone who didn't expect to feature much and scores the tournament's first hat-trick. I think he bagged an assist as well. Absolutely fantastic.
Yo, Ronaldo sucks. Put it out there. He's not a good player anymore. He's fine. Maybe you want to nick a goal off the bench. Okay, that should be his role. My problem with Portugal from the very beginning of this, when we're talking about this in our very first pod, is it's not that they don't have the players to win this tournament. They absolutely do. They have so much talent. Problem is they have to tailor all their talent around this old fuck up front who's can't move anymore, who just wants everything to come to him so that he can finish and he could finish and then dance his stupid dance. Ronaldo sucks. Portugal benched him. I think Switzerland didn't expect this, and all hell broke loose.
Yeah, and all hell was, all of that furor was completely forgotten. The instant he stuck his first goal away in the 17th minute, and it was simple from there. I mean, Gonzalo Ramos was exceptional, but he does also have an equally stupid celebration, which reminds me of like a 7-year-old running around the playground who's just scored and
He's running
just
doing
the little thing with his fingers. But
removing Ronaldo makes the Portugal so much more dynamic. It makes João Felix absolutely terrifying. It makes Bernardo Silva just freely roaming all around. That's what he likes to do. That's what he does for Manchester City. And what makes him such a good player. And Bruno Fernandes can just bomb forward, right? It's just it unlocks the potential of Portugal. and they're going, and I think they beat Morocco. As much as I like Morocco as a story, I think they beat Morocco. And frankly, England and France, they don't have a smooth road. If they beat each other, they don't have a smooth road into the final. This Portugal team can be pretty dangerous now, unless they revert back to
agreed.
At which point they'll
If we could beat France, would beat Portugal. I think is a logic, right?
I don't think so. I think whoever wins that game loses to Portugal.
Really?
Big if they don't play Ronaldo anymore.
Wow.
I don't think they can. I don't think they can play Ronaldo now. I think it would just be so counterintuitive and go against everything, every football, every sensible football decision.
It's up to him. It's up to him as the captain to sit his ass on the bench and don't make a distraction, because that's what's going to curtail Portugal's chances.
Yeah, because he can. I mean, I guess it's also to him. Does he want to win the World Cup, or does he want to, or does he want to score another goal? I think even Ronaldo would sit on the bench and win the World Cup. Quite frankly, I would assume it's the first time in Portugal's history if they do win it.
And Fernando Santos, I doubted him whether he had the courage to do this or not. He dropped in for round of 16. That's important. Going forward, are you going to keep doing that? Because Portugal looks downright terrifying when Ronaldo is on the bench. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I can't see anyone but Portugal winning that game. I've loved Morocco. I think they've been absolutely amazing. But just the way they dismantled a competent Switzerland team as well was a real statement for this tournament. I mean, it's a bigger win because I guess aside from Spain, Costa Rica, it's the biggest scoreline, the biggest margin of victory we've seen at the tournament. And for it to come in the knockouts is a real statement for Portugal. So any final thoughts on this before we wrap up the pod? Spare a thought for 38-year-old Pepe, who scored a pretty decent header.
39 now, I think. 39. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Maybe Ronaldo can take a page out of his book and just, shut up and work hard, and then maybe he'll get picked. But we shall see. All right, well, let's wrap this one up. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me today. Thank you, everyone, to listening and tuning in, all of our many millions of fans. We love you. We appreciate you. And we will absolutely see you after the quarterfinals. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Need to get Craig out of here, right?
Yes, we need to remember how to do that this time.
How did we do that last time?
I don't think we did. How do we just do something in the chat?
Let's see. Go to here.